the Executive Director of LEADERship Ashtabula County. I think I've had the pleasure of meeting most of the folks in the room this morning, so thank you all for being here. And our topic today is about engaging young professionals in economic development. And I think it's a topic that we all talk about, and we've spent many meetings discussing, and it's the same, we kind of repeat the same question over and over. How do we attract young people here? How do we attract families? How do we keep talent here? How do we grow the talent that we have? And how do we bring in some new ideas? And how does Ashtabula County's economy grow? And that's a lot. That's a lot to think about. And there are a lot of challenges there, but there are also a lot of things that are being done that are right. And a lot of things that are being done that encourage people to be here. There are reasons why people want to work here, want to reside here. So the way that we're going to do this morning is Don is going to talk to you a little bit about leadership and economic development. And we've got PowerPoint as well. And then he and I have spent some time in the past year having some conversations with local young professionals and talking about, why are you here? What do you like about Ashtabula County? What are some of the reasons, why you want to work here, or why you want to live here, why you want to raise your families here? So I'm going to talk a little bit about those questions and the answers that we've received, and share with you some of the data locally that we've compiled as well, and talk about some further opportunities for people to become involved here in the community, because there are a lot out there. So I'd like to begin by introducing Don Iannone, who is the CEO and Executive Director of the Growth Partnership for Ashtabula County.
Thank you very much.
One more thing that I would like to add, we'd really like to encourage everyone to ask questions, and ask questions throughout, because this is really a community conversation. So feel free to, if something comes up, if you'd like to add to anything or make a comment, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Laura. And I think it's actually a good idea to have tag teams. It's really a great thing, because too often people get up and they have one point of view, and I think this is great to really share this program with Laura. And I'll add that her organization and the Young Professionals Organization for Ashtabula County are really the entities that have the most to say and most to do about this subject. But I think economic development is failing young people everywhere. And it's about time that we do something about it, because if we don't create more opportunity for young people, we're never going to move ahead. We're not going to move ahead as a county. We're not going to move ahead as a society. And I think that we need to listen to the worldview, the words, the ideas that young people have. And I think economic development has been very slow to adopt that, and I'm going to share some facts in that regard with you just a little bit. As Laura indicated, the topic today is really engaging young leaders in economic development. And I have something very specific in mind when I think about that, because the central reason why we pursue economic development is to create broad-based prosperity in society and in communities. And I think if there's a challenge that young leaders, young professionals, young people need to step up to, it's really that one, because unless we get on a new course in terms of how we create wealth in society, economic development is going to be obliterated at the local level. Everything that we seek to do is going to be for naught. So what is a leader? In my mind, it's one who possesses the ability to create and communicate a clear vision that inspires others to follow or give leadership in some way. More than following, increasingly it's about inspiring other people to step up and be a leader. Leadership is to communicate people's worth and potential so clearly they are inspired to see it themselves. Maybe that's the teacher inside me. But honestly, it's not about strutting your stuff, showing your stuff, doing what you can do while you're in that chair around the board table, but it's really about inspiring others and helping them to step it up. And that's really the key thing, and giving them the opportunity to do that job once they're there. I'm going to give you my definition of economic development, which is it is a process. It's not the growth partnership for Ashtabula County, okay? If you think that's economic development, that's probably a tiny fraction of what economic development is. It's a process in society And it's really the way in which local economies create prosperity, and by its origin was really about creating broad-based prosperity in society through the expansion of businesses, through investment, through job creation, through targeted public and civic capital investment in development resources that really supports business and job development and institutional growth. By contrast, economic growth is really, at the local level, it's about the local economic output of a county, which for Ashtabula County, that number is $3.2 billion a year. And so it's really an exercise of growing that number when we talk about economic growth. Economic development is a close cousin to economic growth. The two, both are necessary. But I think this is about how do we capitalize on economic growth and how do we stimulate more economic growth in a way that makes us more prosperous. So that's the equation. We're doing a miserable job of it. And the reason why, and this is a very opinionated view, is because we've lived off of Wall Street too long. And basically, we have too much debt. And we've created what is called the financialization of our economy, which means that basically we're more concerned about return on investment than we are productive investment and earned income. That's what it boils down to. And any time that you have a situation where investment returns exceed growth, what happens? The rich get richer. We have growing inequality in society. And the only way to reduce that is to change the incentives and the disincentives for where we're going to really encourage this shift in our economy. This is what we're paying for. You say it's because people don't want to work. It's not true. I mean, there's some that don't. You say it's because businesses have international competition. That's true, but that's not the core problem. The core problem is that we've created an economy that we don't know how to change and make work. And frankly, we need to go back to really doing things that are more productive and more things that matter. Because all the economic development in the world is not going to make up for that. And Ashtabula County is a victim of that, and just about every other place that you look at on this planet is. Some places are reaping a lot more benefit than this county is, but frankly, that's the central problem. So what do we do about that? I think that's a challenge that we need to work with the younger generation in changing. I'm going to talk about in a minute. Median income by age. And I want to talk mostly about the tier that's in the 25 to 44 category, because this is really, for the most part, when we talk about young leaders, where these people fall. This is the median income level, which is $42,399 as of 2013. The numbers are not really surprising by categories. You would expect the older generation to have higher incomes and those below to have lower, and those that are at the retirement end of things to be lower. So there's nothing really unique about that. Let's look at how Ashtabula County population 25 to 44 compares to surrounding counties. And I want to call attention particularly to Lake County because there's a huge gap. It's about $16,000 a year. It's very significant. This is the most productive. This is where the energy, talent, creativity of our county comes from. And we have got to find a way to close that gap. And we have to do it in a way that involves productive investment, creating more jobs. I think manufacturing is the core of that. Growing agriculture, agribusiness is the core to that. I think capitalizing on the resources that make us special, whether it's the airport, whether it's Kent State University, these are power resources that we need to make greater use of if we're going to change these numbers. So who's usually a part of the economic development mix when you think about the stakeholders? It's these groups. It's business, it's government, it's education, it's the nonprofit sector, the philanthropic sector, it's citizens and workers. And that's a group that we really haven't done enough to really engage. We need to engage people. It's more than just what goes on the front page of the newspaper in terms of informing them. We need to find better ways to engage them and to engage students in this process. Economic development strategies, I'm not going to read all this, but it tells you that economic development truly is everybody's job. And bringing new young leaders through each of these areas is important, whether it's marketing and branding, whether it's business development, which I'll talk about in a minute in a little bit more detailed, whether it's advancing education, whether it's technological innovation, whether it's agriculture. And I think agriculture does a pretty decent job through a lot of their programming. When you look at the number of programs that they've developed, there's some things that we can learn again from agriculture. Business development, which is where probably most economic development organizations spend most of their time. And there's three ways that we really develop businesses and jobs. It's through working with existing companies and helping them grow, retaining them. It's through attracting new businesses. It's through entrepreneurial development, really starting more new enterprises. We're very weak in this area in Ashtabula County. Our true strength lies, at least for some time out, in growing the base that we have and adding to that and creating the next generation of growth companies in this county and making sure that we transition the businesses that are here to young people and finding a way to do that, to make sure that we have young leaders that are running the enterprises of the future. And that we do that transition in a way and help them finance those businesses and help that to happen. Because that is really critical. So a lot of different ways that you can deal with disposing of a business, okay? But I think when you think about this county and what's important to it, it's really transitioning these businesses to young people, finding ways either through sweat equity or other means to get them engaged in those enterprises and carry them forward and reinvent them and make them strong in the future. Lots of people will come to Ashtabula County if we can do that. I promise. Okay, a little bit from an old lecture that I gave. Everybody says, well, what is economic development about? I mean, this is probably the best way to explain it. And when you think about giving leadership to it, there's a supply and demand side. Supply side strategies have to do with strengthening the resource base, whether it's workforce development, sites and buildings, if it's strengthening education, if it's improving government policies and regulations, if it's creating more tourism attractions. That's supply side, okay? The demand side relates to the businesses, the entrepreneurs, the tourists, all those actors in the economy, essentially, that require the supply you create. And the two have to be brought along together. If you're too much of a supply sider, you create, too many facilities, you create too many parks, too many everything, and they don't get used. But it's a careful art of really bringing supply and demand together. So now you know everything there is about economic development, okay? I don't know why we never told people this when I was going to college. It's like, God, they could go through all these courses and never give me the answer. So, but now you have it. No charge. Unless you want to join the Growth Partnership. We have changed our system to a tiered membership program, so it's a lot easier to do what Jack Nettis and a lot of other people have said on the board. We need to be an inclusive organization, okay? We want you to be a part of this, we really do. And we want to help you be your own economic developers. So how are we doing? I did some survey work some time ago. I did a project with Kent State University. I'd love to do a project with Kent State. But how are we doing in engaging young leaders? First of all, what I found in survey work, this is national survey work, it's a couple years old, significant interest in economic development by young leaders, very significant. Progress is moderate to slow. It's not good. We're not doing enough. Board positions, it's a pay-to-play deal, and that's what it is. So we need to create a new way to engage young leaders who can't afford to make an investment, significant investment to be on that leadership position, or somebody sponsors them to do it. All organizations need money, whether it's the Growth Partnership, Leadership, Kent State, After School Discovery. Everybody needs resources. The airport, everybody does. But we have to find a way to loosen that side of things up a bit. Smart communities and organizations more readily involve younger leaders. They know it's important and they're doing something about it. The survey showed that urban areas are moving faster and allowing younger leaders to step up and step into position in economic development than rural areas. We need to change that. We're a county that's both urban and rural in nature. I think we've got a lot of young leaders that we can engage. Young leaders are often more interested in entrepreneurship, technology, talent, quality of place, community and neighborhood development. The quality of place piece of it is very, very evident. That doesn't mean that they're not interested in other aspects of economic development, but that's where I hear the most talk, buzz, involvement. And Ashtabula County needs a lot of help in those areas. They tend to do it differently, by golly, using networks, working on flat organizations, which is, you don't have just one person who kind of calls all the shots. They use social media, they work in teams. It's all good stuff, it's the future. So what does it take to be a good economic development leader? It's not everything, okay? But it's really leadership skills that people who know how to lead and create collaborations to get things done, people who know how to bring about change in a way that's positive, in a way that sticks, in a way that works. People that know how to lead in a way that's performance-based. They get results, they get things done. And it goes without saying, you need to have an interest and some knowledge about economic development. But those are the four things that really, I think, you need if you're going to be an economic development leader. In some ways you can say it's not unlike a lot of other things, it's just that it's really how you're applying those skills. Okay, the last piece is, what are the opportunities for leadership? And they fall into four categories. You serve on a board, you serve on a committee, you serve in a multiple organization council, you're a subject matter expert. Roles, requirements, time commitment, predominant stakeholder group. You can read this. By the way, I'll tell you an advantage of, I want you to write this down, okay? It's your pencil time. Growth Partnership .wordpress, WORDPRESS.com. That's our blog. See, if you are a subscriber, you already got in your email address my presentation, you wouldn't have had to come this morning. Or you would have come to hear Laura's presentation. But seriously, every day we put something up there. Today this presentation is up there, and if you want it, you can get it, okay? So there's differences in both the role requirements. I want to call attention to a couple things here because I think it's really key. Leadership exists across all these areas. We need subject matter leaders. Not everybody can serve on a board. Not everybody wants to serve on a board. Some people avoid serving on boards because they can get more done in other ways. But we need people to be engaged on different levels and in different ways. Time commitment varies. What I find, just again going back to some of the survey work we did a few years back, when you talk about boards of economic development organizations, you can almost predict the fact that 2/3 of those on the boards are businesses, because business has such a strong vested interest in economic development. And you could argue that we need to diversify the mix in different ways. I would say that depends on the city or county or state in terms of what's needed in terms of giving leadership. The pay-to-play piece comes in, and I'm telling you exactly how it is. But when you look at board experience, usually you have to be prepared to make a financial investment. And again, I think we need to make some ways to adapt that so that we can accommodate people that aren't to the point where they can afford it, but they have a tremendous amount to give. But that gives you a sense of a couple things. Tells you, where things are, how we're doing, the challenge that we have in getting young people involved, and in my mind, what the central issue is, which is really creating broad-based prosperity and getting more people on that campaign to make it happen. And I know Laura's got a ton of great thoughts that will either dovetail or will provide an interesting contrast, is what I have to say. But thank you.
some of the subjects today. So, if I remember how to do this, no, what's the point? Maybe it's just fun. I need that too.
Look who's fixing.
There's Lucas, no worries.
Two experts.
A moment to collect our thoughts. Okay, so I didn't skip over this slide because it was basically the definition of economic development, but where I got this from was from some of our discussions with some people locally. What does it mean? That's the dictionary definition. When you know, what is successful economic development? Finding different needs for different communities at different times, and success is often very specific depending on the goals, implementation, and funding. Well, the answer that we got when we asked a lot of people, what does economic development mean to you in Ashtabula County, was job creation. Everyone wants to see jobs. Everyone wants to see those numbers go up. They want to hear about businesses coming, and they want the things that they can see and feel and hear about, read about. So those become the very obvious. We read in the newspapers about different programs that are thrown out there, such as, we're going to do a tax abatement to lure this business here, or, kind of swapping this option for another. And we go back to, well, what is that creating? Is it creating, more money in the economy, more jobs? That was the answer that we received, is they want to hear about more opportunities for people here. This is some of the data that exists right now, and hopefully you may or may not be familiar with it, but hopefully there's some things here that are new to you. 23.7% of Ashtabula County's 100,000 residents are between the ages of 25 and 44. Big number, not too bad. So, but 12% of the people in that age range have a bachelor's degree or higher, and overall, 8% of residents over 25 have a bachelor's degree. So there are some folks that are, kind of outside of that age range that do as well. And only 4% have a graduate degree or higher. Now, that other number, that 69%, that refers to specifically that age range. So in that age range, 25 to 44, 69% of those individuals here in Ashtabula County are employed. Another thing to think about, less than 100 new homes have been built here in Ashtabula County since 2010. The number's starting to increase a little bit. You're seeing some construction here and there. But the reason that I put that in there is in our discussions with young people here, they kept talking about, well, where are we going to live? Where do we live? And I've talked to recruiters for hospitals or different businesses. They say when we bring people here, they're looking for the neighborhood that suits their needs. And where is it? They're looking for whether it's a development with a place to play for their children, or they want to meet new people, a neighborhood. Maybe some people are looking for, we've got some beautiful older homes here as well, and there are some beautiful newer homes. But that's a question that kept arising is, where is the new development? Because we tend to think that these new housing developments, new homes being built, that aligns with our concept of prosperity in the area as well. And right now, about 17,000 Ashtabula County residents are K through 12 students. That's a big number. That's a huge number. And those are the people that are going to be in our workforce tomorrow. And those are the people that we're hoping to continue on with their education, whether it's at a university setting or in a workforce development setting. And we're hoping that they bring their skills back here or find a way, to kind of share and build upon our local economy. Those are just numbers. So what is working? What are some of the things that are working here in Ashtabula County? Encouraging entrepreneurial growth in Ashtabula County via mentorship and funding opportunities. That has been successful. And two things that I read about nationwide that are working are both the opportunity for building an internship program, building internships and partnerships with universities, partnerships with local corporations. Those things work. The other piece that works is the mentorship. So two of the things that those have in common is the ability for young professionals to look to the other generation and the generation ahead of them for guidance, for career inspiration, find out what's working for you, what do you do in your role, and how do I follow in your footsteps, or how do I take the knowledge that I learned, whether it's at university or outside of the community, and bring it back here. But those are two pieces that have been proven to be successful. One example that she often is one in Cleveland. A program that was done that was formed or started to engage local students and kind of follow them in their path through the university and plug them back into some employment opportunities there. So those are two things that are working, and they are working here in Ashtabula County as well. Some of those examples are organizations such as the New Entrepreneurs Opportunities Fund, which you may be familiar with when we talk about the Ashtabula Harbor area, and things that they're doing in offering some funding opportunities for entrepreneurs, but they're also offering that mentorship piece as well, and that accountability piece. And the ability for individuals that have had a business success and have an entrepreneurial background to work with people that want to start their own business and really set in place some best practices and offer a support system as well. So a lot of those pieces have to do with community collaboration and growth. Having different funding streams available, 503 Corp, and different avenues that are supportive of small business and growth here in Ashtabula County. And also work to connect people with those opportunities to learn more, to bring in, not only to work with your business plan, but to bring some new ideas that you may not know are available. Because when people come here to Ashtabula, there isn't a giant sign outside that says, come here for funding, or come here for an idea, or here's where you go to hire people. None of those things exist, and they're not anywhere else really. You can search things on the internet, but all of you are a huge part of that. From the banks, from insurance agencies, from the different civic organizations that we're all involved with, from social services agencies, and going to people that hold that information. And so we need to get better as a community of sharing and connecting those things as well. Education programs supporting the county's needs. Programs here at Kent State University Ashtabula campus that are responsive to the needs of the community. And programs such as their nursing program that continue to grow and thrive. And there are also jobs here available that fall within that category. So there are people that are trained here that then come and go and work at facilities such as ACMC, university hospitals, and find success. So we're being responsive to what people are looking for in educational opportunities. All right, so what is important to young professionals on a national scale? And I thought this was interesting because it also really kind of reflected what was important to young professionals on a local scale. So the first slide on that side is why did they take the job? Pay and recognition was the highest percentage, position, benefits, work environment, supervisor. The other side, why did they stay? Oh, they're pretty similar, but as you can see, work environment is one of the reasons why they stay. They want a supportive environment, they want to be able to grow within their role. In talking to a lot of people over the last few weeks, over the last few months, I asked the question, why do you want to keep a job here? And they say, well, people say to me all the time that your dollar goes further in Ashtabula County. And I can buy a house for, X amount of dollars here and have a great quality of life. And this individual said to me, but the reality is, I'm only going to be paid this dollar amount here in Ashtabula County. So while that's kind of the median pay range that I can expect, it falls in line with what I can expect from the housing market. So my incentive in this job is benefits for my family. My incentive is being able to provide health care. My incentive is, is there a possibility of, a tuition reimbursement down the road? Is there a possibility of advancement? They're really thinking about the future of their family. And then that conversation led into the next piece, which was education. What type of education can I provide here in Ashtabula County for my family? What is available to them? What schools are available? How are the schools ranked and rated? Those numbers, as we all know, we very recently had our Leadership Education Day, and I think our class members were blown away by all the testing. You hear that over and over. Kids are tested, the data from the test will show up 2 years down the road. We don't even know what it's measuring. But those are the things that people look at when they want to move into the area. You look at that list and you say, where are these schools ranked? Where are they rated? What are the poverty levels? What's the reality here? So, and I apologize on the print here, it may be a little bit small, but the things we asked the group, we kind of divided them into 3 different subsets. Single young professionals, married young professionals, that kind of includes, folks with a family, beginning a family, and then college graduates with Ashtabula County roots. And that's a group of people who are working here and came back here to work, but are not living here, and are not necessarily, that's not really on their radar. So, as you can see, there are some things that are important across the board. Career advancement, obviously. Entrepreneurial opportunities. That was something that we started to hear a lot about, is people really, they want to explore some opportunities to maybe be their own boss. And they're seeing the successes that exist here in Ashtabula County. They're seeing things like young restaurant owners opening up some restaurants, maintaining them, and employing local people and growing their business. They're seeing people, in some different business practices like the insurance agency and starting a business growing that business and making a life for them here too. So entrepreneurial opportunities were very, very important. Educational advancement, also important, you know. Is there an opportunity for me to grow in my career from the educational side, receive some career development? Community leadership and political thought. That was interesting. You know, when people talked a little bit about that, the young professionals talked a lot about how they felt it impacted them and at what stage they felt if they even had a say in that. And we'll talk a little bit about that next. Housing availability and quality. Not only was that important to people that are here, it's very important to the people that are not living here, because that is the reason they are not living here. And that was one of the things that they brought up over and over again is, I don't want to live here, or I don't see a neighborhood that I like, I don't see a home that I like, I don't know if it's really cost effective. I want to live where I'm closer to other things. So I don't really want to get too much into that discussion, because as we all know, we like to say, you choose to be here, you make a choice to be here, and you know what to expect as well. You don't, you're not coming here because you want a Target down the street. You're coming here because maybe the lake is down the street. And so it's different as far as what someone's needs and wants are, but child care services were very important to the young professional group. Social business networking across the board, leisure and entertainment opportunities, quality schools. The single young professionals didn't see that as something that interested them at all, because as we all know, when you're 22, 23 years old and working in this young professional capacity, that's going to happen 20 years down the road. Old people are worrying about that, about having kids and sending them to school. But the reality is, if they're not interested in that factor, they're not interested necessarily in buying a home here. They're not interested in investing and staying here as well. And it becomes, are we becoming a transient market for the single young professional? Self-personal development, back to that. A lot of people saying, I'm looking for opportunities to meet other people. What are those opportunities? And we say as a group, gosh, there's so many of them. Leadership, there's different boards to join. We'll talk more about that. There's a young professionals group. But there are a lot of things and reasons why people don't become engaged in those groups. And I think we need to talk about that, because I hear very often, we can't get volunteers. And then I hear on the other side of the coin, nobody's asked me as well. So, what are we doing community-wide to make these opportunities available for others, making them people aware? And this was the next piece, that is what's important to me. Put that up there. I'm not referring to me, really. These things are important to me, but that's what was important to the young professionals that we talked to. This earning potential. What does my future look like in Ashtabula County? Can I advance in my job, or am I going to stay in that range of that, that $42,000 median income? Sometimes, there's a generation, the boomers, the X, and the Y. And Generation Y, we tend to think, I'm going to start right out of college as the vice president of the company, and my friends are earning this, and I know that, I should have a new car, a new home, all of those things, or I need to be appointed to this board and that group. And we're forgetting a little bit of that process of, you have to work into those things. And, we're forgetting, because we've become, as a society, it exists that, you should be at the top of your industry right out of the gate. And sometimes it takes a little more work than that. But the trend is, we want it now. So my family, healthcare and education, hugely important. That's what was important to young professionals here in Ashtabula County, is how do I take care of my family? Does this job offer healthcare? It's the first thing that gets cut. And it's also the one thing that, and when I say cut, I mean there are different levels. You can reduce it, have a higher copay, all those things. That's huge. The percentage that you're contributing out of your paycheck every month, that's a big factor in your household expenses. And it's also really decision based on, am I even going to go to the dentist this year? And I hear that a lot. And I don't hear that from families that are, we talk about a lot of, we have a high poverty level here. That's not where I'm hearing that. I'm hearing that from people that are earning in that median income. Median income is, can I afford to go to the dentist? I think about that all the time, I think about that balance of what is my copay, or how do we hit this, what's the deductible? Is it even affordable to have healthcare as a small nonprofit? So those are very real factors in why people decide to stay here and grow in their careers as well. And who cares about, recreation, I have to find it? Again, we don't have, maybe some of the same amenities that are other places, but we have other amenities that are even better. But we have to go look for them. And we have a lot of ways that those are conveyed to people, that are communicated to people. You know that they exist. We have an amazing Ashtabula Convention Visitors Bureau, but you have to find those things.
And they're not necessarily, kind of right in front of you all the time. And that's why we talk about, promoting our wineries. We talk about promoting the lake. We talk about the new, opening of different facilities, our parks, our metro parks, all those things, because it's really important that people are aware of these. I can't tell you how often in our leadership class, all that I hear over and over and all year round is, I had no idea that that existed. And yeah, I think to myself, really? Morgan Swamp? Everybody knows Morgan Swamp is there, right? But no, I had no idea that existed, or I had no idea that that's where the beach access was here in Ashtabula County. So what's very obvious to, maybe obvious to you all the time, not everybody knows about these things. Who cares about infrastructure for the future? That was a huge concern for the young professionals, is that we have an aging population. And are they interested in building up things for the future and passing the streets levies? Are they interested in making the choices and decisions that will allow for new construction, that we may need new ways to get water to this area, new ways to bring in new businesses? Are they interested in that? Because we have a population that's kind of thinking, maybe it's time to start thinking about retiring. I've heard that sometimes people, as they decide to retire, like to live places that are sunnier and don't have winter 9 months out of the year. So that's what the young professionals are wondering about, is who cares about infrastructure for the future? Are we going to be able to raise the funds to pass the street levies? What about our police forces? All those things. Who's planning for that? And can it care? The sense of community. And we have several school systems here in Ashtabula County. And it's very interesting when you look at the map of the divide from a population standpoint of how these districts are built. And, it's almost like a little maze, figuring out what kids go to different schools and all that. And there's also kind of a lack, that divides up areas. It divides up geographic areas. I've had a wonderful opportunity recently to become even more familiar with the city of Don Iannone and that area. There are things there, and in my job, I'm there all the time, but I had no idea. I had no idea. And that's how huge Ashtabula County is. It's 702 square miles. It's a lot of land to cover. And if you're not in a role that has you here at the Profiles Breakfast and, interacting with people in the community, you have no idea what's going on down in Andover if you live in the city of Ashtabula. And so it's really hard to build that connection all throughout because, it's driving from one end to the county, that's an hour and 15 minutes from one end to the other. So it's almost like, you can drive to Cleveland in that time or anywhere else. So there is a big divide. There's a big divide as far as, industry above 90 and agriculture and different things in the southern part of the Ashtabula County. Being accepted and included by the generation of leaders ahead of me. That was a very interesting topic, and that came up quite a bit. And it's not one of the things that, has been, that I did a little research on. It goes back to that whole paying their dues and the expectation of a high-level job right out of the gate. And they said, well, it's not that Generation Y is unwilling to pay their dues. They're just not willing to do so for an unlimited amount of time. And a recent study showed that, a lot of those respondents expected to spend no more than 1 to 2 years paying their dues in entry-level jobs. That's kind of the breakdown of where you fall in that category. I'm just eking into the Generation X group, I guess. But I guess I associate a little bit more with that group. So I want to talk a little bit about that concept of paying their dues and how it relates to the Ashtabula County young professionals' perception of civic involvement. And we spent a lot of time, Brian, Sean, I know that you were both there and several others in the room, but this topic came up quite a bit. And they said, well, boards don't want us. And no one's asking me to be on a board. Now, I know looking around this room, a lot of you that are involved in different organizations, we are dying for board members. We would love for you to be a part of it. We need volunteers. So what is that gap there that exists? And why aren't people reaching out and pulling people in? Or why aren't, our young professionals looking for these opportunities to become involved? And there seems to be a little bit of a communication divide because, I'm hearing that, well, they said that they were interested, they needed board members, but they wanted someone that was a little higher up in this company X, or someone that was on the board 20 years ago decided to come back on the board. So that's been a little bit of a perceived challenge with the young professionals group as well. And there were also some of the people in the organization said, how do we get people to come to our meetings? If we build it, they will come. And I know that they have gained a lot of momentum lately. So a lot of people have become involved, and that's been a great, great success point into the future. But that's a big challenge. It's a big challenge that exists. They, have heard that before that, well, it's not really your time, but that time will come up. You know, I had an instance arrive where someone said, hey, do you have some suggestions for some board members? People that would be really great to help revitalize this organization. I put 3 or 4 candidates out there that said, this is, you know, it was a little more to the process. You know, what are you looking for? What field do you feel is lacking on your board? Do you need accountants? Do you need people from the legal profession, marketing people? What section of the county do they work with? Because there isn't an exact science to it. But we always like to work with the board and say, you know, where are those gaps that, you know, need to be filled?
Lauren,
So, oh,
a few years ago, Findlay College did a wonderful admissions program on being a big fish in a small pond. To me, our county has that opportunity, and it is something that the young professionals want, some recognition.
Absolutely.
And I think it ties into the whole sense of community. This is a place where you can make a difference. And if you do sit on the boards, you don't have to have a lot of money. But you can sit on boards and have your voice heard, and it builds that sense of community to make a difference as well. Somehow, if we could reach that, but I think we do have a generational difference. You see, when you had trouble with your technology this morning, who jumped up to help you? None of us with gray hair or no hair figures it out. I think sometimes there's a lack of willingness for long-term commitment, and sometimes a board, they go, 3 years. I think the Jefferson Library Board, I can't get off of that thing. I've been on there for 17 years. Sometimes we get locked in. And,
well, that's the thing we wanted to talk about as well, is that time commitment piece and this group's perception of what it takes to be on a board. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Just to kind of piggyback on what Fred said, my organization does try, face this also. In a lot of years that I've been involved in watching this thing, I think one thing we have to realize is the nature of work has changed. Back in the, quote, good old days, and I think a lot of my patriots like Fred are going to remember that people in business were often expected and encouraged to serve on board by being offered. It's part of your job to go to the chamber meeting. It's part of your job to do this. And today's young people, they are so stretched.
Absolutely.
The jobs are bigger, they have young families, but the one thing I see that could help would be, I don't want to say the way it used to be, but a better recognition of employers that there needs to be some of this community building done and giving their employees the time to do that.
Well, thank you, Evelyn, because both Evelyn and Fred, that kind of leads into that next point in it, and why we were talking about it was so challenging for young professionals. It's not just those reasons, but it is a lot of that part is I don't have the time. I have a young family. I have a baby on the way. I'm swamped with work. The landscape has changed, and that one person is doing, in many of our local companies, is doing the job of 4 people. You know, the world changed in 2007, 2008, 2009, and this is the new way, is that you're doing 4 people's jobs. And our employers, there's also a little different viewpoint of those things sometimes. And, we hear that quite a bit that, oh, well, I want a higher level management person on that board, or I don't, this person doesn't have the time to do it. Then as an employee, sometimes you hear, when you hear that, well, I don't know if you have the time in your role. Well, that did it for me. I don't want to go out and seek that opportunity. But I will say this, make the time for the things that you feel strongly about. And one of the things that we talk about a lot in leadership is working with a board or on a board that you feel passionate about. It can't just be something that, well, they asked me to be on that board and I don't know a lot about it, but I'd like to learn. Well, sometimes that does work out because you do find out a little bit more about an organization you had no idea before. But when it comes to being questioned on, am I going to go to that meeting because my schedule won't allow it or they won't even miss me, then you're on the wrong board. And that's the wrong opportunity for you. But when it comes to making that investment of time and hours, all of these boards that we work with these days, this is a working board. There's a lot of opportunity, but you have to be prepared to be invested as well, and you want to be invested. So time poverty, huge issue. And it's a huge issue that, that young professionals group talks a lot about because we want to go home to your family. You want to spend time with your family. You want to have that quality of life. We talk about having quality of life living here in Ashtabula County. Well, I want it. I don't want my entire day to be in meetings. but these organizations in our community cannot grow without the involvement of everyone else. And that's where you start to find that sense of community again, is by getting involved. All right, so that's the other one that we heard quite a bit of. There is nothing to do here. But there are 100 opportunities to get involved. There are a million opportunities to learn more about quality of life. We're finding that people want to live and work in a kind of a values-based job. They want to do what they believe in. They want to work for a company that stands behind their values as well, and they want to believe in it. Or they want to work for themselves. They want to get involved with people that care about the same things. A good example of that is, we hear a lot about eating local or supporting the local wineries, and that's a piece of that puzzle also. And not only is it kind of a trend nationwide, but we can actually do that here in Ashtabula County, and you're supporting local entrepreneurs at the same time. You're finding a gathering place for you and your friends and building that sense of community as well. So this next slide is going to be a little bit overwhelming, and it is not a complete list. I'm just going to tell you right now. This is just in the past several months, some organizations that have said to us, we need board members or volunteers, or do you know someone who might be interested? And that's a long list. There's a lot there. And that is just such a small percentage of what is available here in Ashtabula County for opportunities for young professionals to get involved. In fact, different things on here because there are different opportunities. Lights on the Lake needs volunteers. A CDC needs people to become involved and engaged in their campaign. Covered Bridge Festival, volunteers. Pontiac Human Resource Center, board members. So there is a fit for everyone. Even if you feel like you can't, you may not have the time to serve on a board, there's a volunteer opportunity. That's an opportunity to get your family involved as a young professional as well, and maybe, it's a recreational opportunity also. There are a lot of things that exist, and I can truly say that we are seeing some great examples of success here in the county. We're seeing some great examples of engagement, but we're only about 10% in. We really are. So it's going to take the entire community collaboration. It's going to take kind of a culture change in a sense back to that values base in the workplace also. Our employers are extraordinarily supportive. They're extraordinarily supportive of our organization, of many civic endeavors, United Way, CDC, different groups. They're very encouraging of their team members becoming involved as well. That's a great bonus here in Ashtabula County. But we need to continue to work with them and be able to, accommodate, what might suit your organization, and also understand that we need to maybe build more opportunities, different opportunities for different people. So our young professionals are looking for a lot of variety. They're looking for something that may fit their big, busy schedules, but they're also looking for the right fit, and they want to be asked. They want to be asked. And over again, you look around there, and I know we're all dying for volunteers and for people to get involved, but these people exist out there. And now a big group that we've been trying very, very hard to engage or find ways to engage is our local educators. These are people that are living here in the community, starting families, have young families, and have a network of friends as well. And we need to show them that we value them, and there are opportunities to engage them in the community also, because that's a huge subset of young professionals that we don't always think of or get actively involved in some of the things that are going on. And it goes back to that whole culture and idea of time poverty. So there's a lot of work to be done, but there are a lot of positive things happening as well. And so I find that very encouraging. On the tables, there are a few different examples of some things that, some ways that LEADERship Ashtabula County is looking to reach out to people in the upcoming months as well. We're offering some board training, and we're hoping that this will attract a wider variety of people that maybe haven't been involved in boards in the past, but we want to offer the opportunity to learn more about process and learn more about good board governance. We're also starting a new speaker series. Something that's very popular and inspirational are, how many of you listen to a TED Talk? No. So you learn a lot of great things that way. So it's a great way to while away way too many hours during the day also, but it's also very inspirational. And every day there's something different. Well, we decided to build upon that model and ask a variety of community leaders to curate discussions based on a TED Talk. So it's going to be a 1 hour, a lunch, with a box lunch from somewhere, even a local place, a Veteran Bowl, something like that. And have a box lunch, have an hour, 18-minute TED Talk, and then some discussion around the topic. We're going to invite different people to really, kind of curate and lead those discussions all throughout. So we plan on doing that monthly. So we're looking for ways to share ideas, to encourage people to be a part of things. But it is very encouraging. There are people that want to be involved. And we have to find ways to really bolster and grow our local economy. But a big thank you to those that are, thank you to everyone here in the room for being interested and being engaged. We are working very hard on developing our schedule for next year's Profiles Breakfast as well. So if you have any ideas, please feel free to pass those along, email those along also. And Don, did you have anything to add? Are they going to wrap things up?
I'm done.
All right, well, huge thank you. Our sponsors, as always, is that newspapers, Kent State University Ashtabula, Partnership for Ashtabula County, and Leadership Ashtabula County make this possible throughout the year. Does anyone have any questions? Yes?
Laura, I have a couple of comments to make. And I think we all pay bouquet of appreciation to you and the youth leadership development. And also to Kent State University. I think we're very fortunate to have Kent State here in Ashtabula County, and those people who are responsible for bringing Kent State here to Ashtabula County. I think we owe a big thank you to. Very positive.
That's a very encouraging point, because I will say our youth leadership program has doubled in size in the last year, and we're continuing to grow because we want to be inclusive of all students that want to participate. And Debbie Waring has grown and expanded that program throughout many years here with Leadership Ashtabula County. We're continuing to grow and build upon it. And the opportunity exists for any high school junior, well, there'll be a junior in the next upcoming year, to apply. And we do not turn students away based on their ability to pay for the program. We find ways to work with them. We find scholarships available. But it's a great way to expose students to the many assets here in Ashtabula County and also build in their leadership development. And it's not too early to start with those things. I wish many times that we could start even at an earlier age. But the program where that fit is, with leadership is with their junior year in high school. But we see a lot of success, and it was a wonderful thing this year in the adult class, the leadership adult class. One of the members of that class this year is an engineer at Crystal. He was in youth leadership, back in 1997. And that's a really great thing to see. Was left the area, went to school, gained an education, and said, I want to raise my family here. And was able to find a great employment opportunity as well in doing so. The individual is involved in the Ashtabula Arts Center and a variety of things. His kids would go to school locally. So that's an example of a win. And those wins are going to look different for everyone, but they do exist. So, anyone else, any questions? Yes?
Or is there an organization that actually has any responsibility to facilitate the process of board membership?
Well, for many years, that's been something that leadership has done kind of on an ad hoc basis. However, we have 3 core programs, and our mission in providing educational opportunities, we have looked many times for funding to be able to build that database and to really get things set up on a larger scale. It is, like I said, it's something that we do on an ad hoc basis and working with boards. And I will tell you right now, it's not a process of someone calling up and saying, I need a board member. It doesn't work like that, We have a whole matrix that we work through on what are your needs as a board. And what are your needs as a board? Do you have representation from all over the county? Is that what you're looking for? What sector, from that employment world are you looking for? Something that Don brought up that I thought was really interesting was, some of those on the little, the matrix of board and organizations, it talked about making a financial contribution. And I think in some larger places, like in the Cleveland area, there are boards that it is going to cost you $10,000 to buy, for your organization to purchase a seat on that board and to be a part of it. It is different here in Ashtabula County. While you do, we're looking for time, talent, treasure, of course, but you can contribute in a lot of different ways. You can find a way to contribute that suits your needs and your abilities also. So, John, I will say that is something that we continue to actively work on. We're trying to find different funding sources to build that database. And we've been working on that specifically for about 1.5 years now to do that and to be able to build a website. We worked with specifically the Erie Community Foundation several years ago did that and built a database where people can not only put in their organization's need, their volunteer profile, they put in their info, organizations put in their info, and their updates. And you can find what it is you're looking for. And we fall into that category that a lot of nonprofits do. That when you have 2 staff members that are doing kind of all of the day-to-day and all those things, we need to find another way to do that. And we've been searching actively with grants and different opportunities. So we're hoping to do that. And that is very, very high on our list of priorities. Any other questions? Wow, that's great. All right. Well, thank you all for being here. Hopefully you enjoyed our